Hi guys, welcome to this video on Descartes Meditations 1. There is a good amount of content just in Meditations 1, so in this video I'll be focusing just on this section of the meditations, and in the next video I will discuss Meditation 2 and Descartes' letters with Princess Elizabeth of Bohemia. Descartes brings up really deep questions about consciousness, perception, and our relationship to the world. The reason that people still read and discuss Descartes today is that he's the first person to ask a lot of these questions in this way. And a lot of our current debate about things like consciousness, artificial intelligence, and so on stem from this first exploration in Descartes' work. Descartes causes us to ask questions like, how can we know our experiences are real? And it also causes us to reflect on, does it matter how the world really is, or is just my perception important? And both of these things we will discuss more in class, in groups. René Descartes was a French philosopher and mathematician living in the 1600s. And he wrote the Meditations, among other works. And the Meditations has 6 parts. In our class, we're just reading parts 1 and 2. In the Meditations, Descartes uses the device of the first-person narrator. But we shouldn't imagine that he's, actually writing those each day. It's not like it's his journal. But that's a literary device to walk us through the sort of questioning that you could go through that raises these types of questions, and that we as a reader can also go through as we are reading the meditations ourselves. So things that are written by Descartes or in Descartes' system of beliefs are called Cartesian. And you've probably heard that before, because as I mentioned, he was a philosopher as well as a mathematician. And all of you, I would expect, have done work with a Cartesian plane, maybe in calculus or other math classes. He's the one who came up with that. And sometimes people don't realize, because it's sort of shortened from Descartes to Cartesian, that there's that connection between this thing that you know from math and this philosopher that we're covering in my class. For this video, I'll start with day 1 and meditation 1. In meditation 1, Descartes is coming from a position of skepticism. So skepticism means that you're doubting everything. And in meditation 1, Descartes relies on a metaphor of knowledge being like a building. All of his worldview, if you will, being like a building. So you guys can think back to in class when I had you write some of your beliefs. We can think of when Descartes talks about his knowledge as being all of that, every single one of his beliefs. And he considers those to be like a building. He writes, "Since a building collapses when its foundation is cut out from under it, I will go straight to the principles on which all my former beliefs rested." In other words, I drew this little picture. My beliefs are like this. They're like a building. That is, each belief that I have is built on a previous belief. So I can't have a belief about René Descartes if I first of all don't know who René Descartes is. I can't have a belief about quantum physics if I don't know what physics is. And so in college and in every other area of our life, we build our knowledge on the previous knowledge that we have. This is how Descartes arrives at this idea of his beliefs being like a building. And with this discussion, he presents what's called an argument by analogy. This is a type of argument that we haven't seen yet. In an argument by analogy, it goes like this. P has property Q. R is like P. Therefore, R has property Q. So in other words, you're saying if two things are similar in premise 2, one of those things has a certain trait, then the other thing will also have that trait. Arguments by analogy aren't the best types of argument because with premise 2, there's a lot of room for interpretation. Some things that are similar don't share all properties, but sometimes we do reason in this way with arguments by analogy. So here's another example of an argument by analogy. Your last boyfriend cheated on you. That P has property Q. So P there is your boyfriend and the property is cheating. Your current boyfriend is like your last boyfriend. That's premise 2. So R is your current boyfriend. He's like P, your previous boyfriend. And R also will cheat on you. Okay, that's 3. R has property Q. You can see why this argument leaves open the possibility of objection. So somebody might say, well, no, actually my boyfriend is different than my last boyfriend. Or although he's similar, yes, he's on the football team, yes, he's from Kansas, but he's different in all these other relevant ways. And that's the way that you can try to object to an argument by analogy. So here is Descartes' building analogy argument about his beliefs. Premise 1, a building collapses when its foundation is cut out. 2, my belief system is like a building. And 3, my belief system collapses when its foundation is cut out. So what then is the foundation of his beliefs, or the foundation of his belief building, if we follow him along with his analogy? And it is the senses. In other words, all of Descartes' beliefs that he can think of in Meditation 1 are based in the senses. That is the eyes, the ears, touch, taste, smell, and so on. So if he can doubt the senses, then he can doubt everything that's based off of those senses. So he's adopting a highly skeptical position. Again, skepticism means that you're doubting everything. And he thinks along these lines: if I have reason to doubt some of my beliefs, then I have reason to doubt all of my beliefs. You'll notice here that this is a claim of the form if P, then Q. If I have reason to doubt some of my beliefs, that's the P, then I have reason to doubt all my beliefs, then Q. This is obviously kind of an extreme position to take, and that's why this is a highly skeptical position. So does Descartes have reason to doubt some of his beliefs? The last slide, remember, it was of the form if P, then Q. If he does have reason to doubt some of his beliefs, then we know that P is true. If we also agreed that the first premise was true, we know that this is valid, right? Then that means that we know the conclusion is true, that he has reason to doubt all of his beliefs. So when he considers whether or not he can trust his senses, and the way he puts it is that his senses sometimes deceive him, he has in mind things like optical illusions. He says that a stick in water looks bent, that things that are far away look smaller. And this is another optical illusion that I like. It's called the Muller-Lyer illusion. And The lines in the middle of the little points or the arrows are the same length. But because of the lines on the sides, either going out or going in, this creates the optical illusion that the line on the top is longer and the line on the bottom is shorter. So this happens to us a lot. Not all of our sense perceptions, but it's not infrequent that our senses will be tricked or that we'll get an impression of the world that's not accurate. So one example that I discuss sometimes in class when we're talking about Descartes' doubting is one time when I was in the library in graduate school, and my graduate school was on Fifth Avenue right by the Empire State Building, and there were parades a lot on Fifth Avenue, and it was pretty annoying if you're in the library and trying to work, but I got used to it, and I would usually work with headphones on. Anyway, so one day I was sitting there in the library, and out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw a float going down Fifth Avenue. But when I looked over, what it was actually a pigeon on the ledge. So this is a sort of case of my senses deceiving me. I was imagining that this pigeon that was actually really close to me was farther away and a huge float. But in fact, it was closer to me and small. So at this point at the end of Meditations 1, Descartes writes this: I am in turmoil, as if I had accidentally fallen into a whirlpool and can neither touch bottom nor swim to the safety of the surface. And it is in this place of turmoil that Descartes ends Meditations 1.